It's for me. It's pretty easy because I just think about what did Frank give me.
Yeah.
In his. And a lot of this is because again we only met twice, we only talked on the phone once. I knew him a lot better than he knew me.
Yeah.
But the kind of the attention to quality and detail at all times is part of the meritocracy of being a musician.
Hey there, music lovers, and welcome to another edition of Why Music Matters. I'm your host, music journalist, and musician Jeff Miers. Today is a special day for the Why Music Matters team. We're celebrating our 50th episode. And as we do so, I'd like to thank all of you for listening and for your continued support. We're just getting started, and we've got some exciting new ventures planned for the future. Thanks for coming along for the ride. A special episode demands a special guest, and today we've got one in the form of UB Professor of Music, John Nelson. I've known John for a long time and have always been impressed and inspired by his love for music, as both a musician and an educator. Whether as co-founder of Pausa Art House, a vibrant home for jazz and contemporary chamber music in Buffalo, as a founding member of the renowned Meridian Arts Ensemble, and leader of the brave and daring Genkin Philharmonic, or as an educator eager to push the envelope of the traditional with the student ensembles he leads at the University of Buffalo. John has been a tireless advocate for contemporary music. John's latest project involves the arrival of an archival recording of the Meridian Arts Ensemble performing at the home of the late great composer, guitarist, and iconoclast Frank Zappa. The Zappa House Concert documents John and the ensemble's 1996 performance for an audience of Zappa, his family, and a group of close friends, all recorded in Zappa's home studio, the Utility Muffin Research Kitchen, using a single microphone. During our discussion, John tells us all about the experience, and he details what Zappa's work has meant to him throughout his musical journey. Welcome to Why Music Matters, John Nelson. Hey everybody, welcome to Why Music Matters. Jeff Miers here. I'm really excited today. This one's been a while coming to welcome my friend John Nelson. John, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
John and I have known each other a good while now. And I think I first became aware of you because of Genkin Philharmonic.
Mm-hmm.
Writing about it for when I was at the Buffalo News. And we've had lots of talks about music over the years. and there's some news, and I thought, oh, it's a high time that we actually recorded one of our talks about music. So anyway, welcome, man.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
It's great to be here.
A lot of you might know John through his role at UB in the School of Music, molding young musicians, but also as a musician yourself. I've always been fascinated with what you choose to invest your time and talent in, and the way that you arrange music and just how you think about music. So let's talk about how a lot of this happened, but I'd like to start with this Zappa house concert.
Okay.
Can you help get us up to speed on this project? Because when I got your email, I was like, holy shit, we got to talk.
Right.
So let's talk about Frank Zappa, which also something we bonded over right away, and Meridian Arts Ensemble and how these worlds intersect.
The Meridians formed in 1987, and we pretty much were all on the same page when we started about taking it really seriously.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times you start a band and it doesn't work out, but I think for us, we felt like the idea of making a living in music was interesting, but we all felt like we wanted to have something that we would be tied to, that we could identify as our own project. Even though we were classical musicians studying, you know, we really admired bands like King Crimson, Zappa, Yes, you know, bands that had a name recognition where when you said their name, people that kind of knew anything about music would know exactly what you're talking about.
Summoned up a whole world just through the name.
And sort of being identified through your work. And I was actually thinking today in the car on the way down here that, you know, when we first got together, we would rehearse. And at the end of the rehearsal, we would get out our date books and we would plan the next 2 weeks of rehearsals. And it wasn't, oh, I don't want to rehearse that day. It was, when can we rehearse?
Yeah.
So it was always crowbarred in. Now we were single, didn't have kids, didn't have mortgages or car payments. So we could kind of live on spirit, you know?
That's the time.
Right? That's the time.
That's the time to do it.
But we really were very disciplined about rehearsing because I think being in New York, we understood that in classical music, it's really based on how well you play. And the path for classical music is often through auditions and competitions. And so we started doing the competition thing like in 1989. So we've been together for a couple of years. And we fell flat on our face a couple times, and then a couple times we got close. And we saw like, oh, it's very simple. You just have to like execute flawlessly and without question, and then you'll win. And in 1980, it was 89, we came in second place for the Concert Artists Guild competition, which is like a classical music competition open to all instruments and chamber groups up to 5 people. So we were competing against cellists, string quartets, really great violin, you name it. There were like 500 applicants initially that year. And they would go through you'd submit a tape, and then you would get invited to a semifinal round, and then there was a final round.
Where was this taking place?
This was in New York. And so in 89, we got second. We were so mad. But you know what? We didn't play first place material that night. We played second place. And second place was like the prize was like $500. And I was like, what are we going to do with that?
Beer and pizza.
Yeah. And so for the whole next year, we were on a mission.
Mm-hmm.
We were going to get that first prize the next year. And we did. So we were like super focused. And actually, I met a guy that was at the semifinals for that second time. And he said, he's like, yeah, I didn't even want to be in the room with you guys because you were so intimidating.
Scary
like,
good.
You guys were going to go win that thing at all costs. So we were, at that age, I think that was a good age for that. We were very focused.
Yeah.
And we wanted to do music that other people were not playing. So It was primarily a brass quintet. There was a lot of really good, through composed music, no improvisation, music that was written for that instrumentation.
Yeah.
And nobody was playing. And we're like, okay, we're going to play this stuff. So that was kind of like we saw a space there, in the chamber music world. Like we could be the ones that could go and throw down and play these pieces that nobody else plays. Maybe one or two groups in Europe or the United States will dig in that hard. So that was kind of our plan. And then while we were I guess we had all graduated from college, Juilliard and Manhattan School of Music.
Is that where everyone met?
Yeah, we met. We were all students there. There was, as you know, there was a very cool downtown music scene that was really kind of spawned by the Knitting Factory.
Yeah.
And so a lot of those people that played there, we got to know. And some of us got to play with them. And that was a really interesting scene to be. I wouldn't say we were part of it, but to be sort of on the periphery of it.
Yeah, adjacent to it. And
adjacent to it, right? Because it was people doing, this mix of composed music with improvised music, but you had all kinds of like different elements. So we got to be very close with Frank London, Steve Bernstein, Matt Dario, Marcus Rojas, tubist, who went on to play with Lester Bowie and David Byrne. I mean, so people were like, and it was like, we grew up listening to popular music, right?
Yeah.
But we were these classical music kids, but we still had these pop and sort of, improvising sensibilities.
Mentality,
Grew up listening to Miles.
Yeah.
The first Miles album I got was Decoy.
Amazing.
The next one I got was On the Corner.
Yeah.
And we would we would cut class to sit around. Like, I remember when Decoy came out, somebody bought it. We went to their apartment and like 10 of us just cut class that day and just sit down and listen.
New Miles.
What's
Listen to
Miles?
Schofield.
What's this? You know?
Totally.
So that just kind of led us to, sort of in that direction. And then my friend Michael Bernstein, who was an art history major, not a musician, but his uncle is Leonard Bernstein.
Yeah.
So he was always, he took me to see Ornette the first time.
Oh,
I saw the double quartet.
Oh my God.
We went to a lot of concerts and he was playing recordings for me and so he gave me this cassette of Frank's 88 tour. He's like, I think some of this might work for you guys.
Is that the first time you were like hearing Frank?
That was the first time I heard that stuff. The 88 band was horn heavy.
Really great.
And to me, it was very clear that music could be very easily sort of filtered down to be, you could cover everything with 5 single line instruments, which is kind of the challenge because we don't have a piano player. We didn't have a guitar player. We didn't even have a drummer at the beginning. So how are you going to get the music,
the chords,
accurately represented with 5 single line instruments, right? So then come to find out, Frank had composed chamber music when he was young. So this all kind of was in line with his origins as a composer, So So I made some transcriptions with, sitting at the desk with black coffee, staff paper, pencils and erasers, and my little portable cassette machine, and just taking the stuff off of the tape. And we made a rehearsal tape. We sent it to Frank. I sent 2 packets, which he never got. And then I was wandering the halls at Juilliard. It was like, I don't know, right before the Christmas break. Nobody's there. And Milton Babbitt comes around the corner. And he says, "How you doing?" He knew us, and we were talking about him writing music for us. Cool. And he was like, he was like your uncle, right? He's like, "How you doing, my boy? What are you boys up to?" And,
oh, that's so cool.
And I told him, I'm having trouble getting to Frank Zappa. I want to send him this recording of us playing his music. And he just listened. He said, "Okay." So that was like, I don't know, December 21st or something like that. New Year's Day, I get a call from Frank.
Wow.
So Milton definitely made the call. If Milton Babbitt, Frank's office says, "Frank, we have Milton Babbitt on the line."
He's taking the call.
He's going to take the call.
Yeah. Those are the kind of calls he would want.
He would take that call, and then, Milton, it probably was a 10-minute conversation. Milton probably said, "Hey,
did you hear these guys
these
play
kids,
music?
They're good kids. I think you should give them a listen. I'm going to write for them." And, okay. So then after that, we went and played for Frank.
Wait. Tell me about this New Year's Day phone call.
Oh, yeah. So that was, were you
like, did you not believe
I was
him?
like, what the, I didn't prepare for this today, Yeah, he just said, we talked for probably 30 minutes. He's made some comments about the pieces that we were playing.
So he
liked it.
He'd listened.
He listened. He liked it. He liked that, because I had sent him some stuff with drums and without drums. And, at that time we wanted to rock, right? Yeah. We were like these repressed classical music conservatory graduates that just were dying to break out. But he liked the versions of the stuff without the drums, because he says, you can really get into more detail with regard to dynamics and timbre, right? Without the drums.
Yeah.
And he said, and I like the way you're doing that. It's really like chamber music that way.
Wow.
And I told him, well, he wanted to know how we were playing the music. I told him, the other composers we were playing. We always played his music in the context of other composers.
Did he like that context?
He liked that. He did not like the Zappa tribute band thing.
No.
He was very against that.
Right.
He liked that he was in the company of other composers. And then we had made one CD, so I had sent him a copy of that, which was all modern music. And there was one piece on there by a composer named Ira Taxon, New York composer, studied with Roger Sessions. He teaches at the Juilliard Pre-College. He's a fantastic composer. I mean, I thought a guy like that would have been world known, but I don't know, maybe the music's a little too specific.
Yeah.
But Frank said that he loved that piece. He said it was the best brass piece that he's ever heard.
Wow.
And it reminded him of Varese. And this piece definitely.
Well, and that's,
right?
That was his.
Yeah.
That's his guy.
It was like son of Varese, you know? So he liked that. And I asked him if he would accept a commission from us. And he said, I don't have time. And you couldn't afford me. I just got a commission from Siemens.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably for the Ensemble Moderne, the Yellow Shark. And he said that was 6 figures. And I was like, oh, okay. He said, but here are the pieces of mine you should play. So I had just like an envelope, right? And I'm frantically writing down titles. He probably rattled off about 20 tunes. And we had a concert coming up in LA like probably 4 months later.
This is about 89, 80,
This was 90.
90.
Yeah, I think 90. And I asked him, would like to invite you to the concert. He says, well, I'm not going to come to the concert, but you guys can come to the house. I was like, better, So then that was that was the first time we went to the house. He was still up and around.
Yeah, this is before he got sick.
Well, he was sick. He had been diagnosed, but he was still walking around working. He was trying to finish the thing that ended up becoming Civilization Phase 3.
Love that.
But they were working like he had Spence Chrislew, Toddy Vega, and Harry Andronis working full time all day into the night. He was working like, they just working like crazy trying to get this thing done, which is how he always worked, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, then we went to the house. We were only there for a couple hours. We went.
Well, I mean, were you freaked out at all?
Well, not really, because, at that point.
No time to freak out?
Right. And we were, I think when you're in it, you're so focused on just we have a job to do.
Yeah, and let's do it well.
Right. And you don't really have space.
For fanboying?
Yeah, and reflection.
Right.
That's not a time to reflect.
Fair.
That's a time to just buckle down.
Do the work.
Play the best shit that you can come up with.
Yep.
Because Frank Zappa's sitting there. So
were you down in the studio?
Yeah, we were in the studio. And then we
Utility Muffin Research Kitchen?
Yep. And we,
Excuse me.
So we played his stuff for him. He made some comments. We played it again. And then we went to the room, his listening room. And he played one of the recently completed synclavier tracks.
The Civilization Phase 3 stuff?
Well,
or something
it was
else?
something that I think didn't quite go on that one as it was, but the title at that time was called Goat Polo. And he had sampled when the Tuvinian singers, you
Throat
can
singing,
see
yeah,
this
yeah.
film when the Tuvinian throat singers and the chieftains.
Yes, and Patty Maloney,
They were at Frank's house.
Yep.
They did a soiree. Johnny Guitar Watson was there.
What a mix.
And so when all those guys were there, he recorded them. And so he used some Tuvinian stuff from Goat Polo. And he listened to the music loud.
Yeah.
Because his hearing was kind of
That was bad.
shot, right? From all those years of. So he plays this track. It's friggin' loud as hell. And it's probably 15 minutes. And it's dense, man.
Yeah.
And it's over. And we're just sitting there quietly. And Ray says, I'm going to have to hear that again sometime. And Frank says, Todd, roll it back. Play it again."
Nice.
So we got to hear it again. And then, and that was it. Frank said, okay, thanks for coming over. Because he had to get back to work.
But he sounds like he was pretty gracious about it.
I mean, just the fact that
he opened his doors to
exactly. He was really nice to us, and Milton Babbitt was really nice to us. A lot of people have things to say about composers, they were not nice, they were unfriendly, whatever. But these, when people like that, like we needed a boost like that.
Yeah.
We needed to get that sort of touch of, these guys are, the real thing. So, and then we were leaving, and I was the last one to leave, and he and Gail were at the door, and he shook my hand and he said, as long as you play my music in this way, you can do whatever you want. In this way, meaning the attention to the quality, right?
Yeah, because that would drive him nuts.
Playing it in the context of other
modern composers.
Not being a
Tribute
Zappa a tribute thing.
Yeah.
And he liked, like we were playing Gesualdo,
Yeah.
you know, and he was into that. He was like, you know, he dug that, you know. Because I think he maybe felt like a lot of times his music was being done, maybe people did it as a novelty, like, oh, we're doing Frank Zappa, you know.
Ooh,
but
that's way out.
it's
man.
way out,
Yeah.
man. But then they don't actually like really do it, you know.
I know his feelings about like working with the LSO and things like that, that he was just like, you know, do these people not care about what they're doing?
And
Like,
he hired the LSO.
I know.
He spent over $100,000.
And he was pissed.
I would be irate.
I mean, the record came out, sounds great, but I understand what he's saying. You can hear it. There's sloppiness and there's also a lack of investment.
Yep.
You know, so I'm sure when he heard you guys,
Right.
he's like, these people care.
Right. Yeah. And so when we, and I, you know, it's kind of funny. So when we were there, he was like, after we played for him, we were in this listening area. We're waiting for Todd to bring up the track. And he said, so where are you guys staying? And we said, El Monte. Frank said, they shoot people over there. And we're like, yeah, well, we're on a budget. And I think that went a long way with Frank. We weren't staying in nice hotels.
Right.
We were roughing it.
You're there to work.
We were there to work. And we shared hotel rooms for a long time. Sometimes we stayed I remember we were in Europe and some concert got canceled in the middle of the tour. And we stayed in a youth hostel, like in the middle of Germany somewhere. And I mean, we were not
Bougie.
getting
You were not bougie.
nice accommodations or amenities unless somebody else was paying for it.
Right.
Like if we played in Mexico, for example.
Right.
Or something like that. But I think that he could see that we were struggling. We were not fancy. And maybe in a little bit like the original Mothers in a way.
That's
you know?
what was going through my head as you're saying that.
We were like sort of like I don't know. It was a guerrilla warfare approach to chamber music.
How cool.
Right? So.
I can see why that appeals to him.
Yeah. And I mean, that's my sort of, I'm guessing, but I think that, you know, he understood what we were doing. And how hard it was.
Mm-hmm.
And when I had the phone conversation, he was asking me like, so what kind of things are you guys doing? And I told him, well, we do this, we do that, you know. And he said, you're probably ready to slit your wrists when you get home from tour. Those were his exact words.
Yeah.
And I
Very
kind of
frank.
chuckled. And, you know, because I'm still in my 20s
Yeah.
at this point, right? I'm not jaded yet. And I said, well, not yet. And he said, you will.
Give it time. Yeah. At this point, he's around 50, right? And he'd been doing it
Yep.
for a long time.
Yep. And he had stopped touring at that point, you know? So, but you know, what a boost. I mean, you always do it. Well, what we did was always about the best payment that you could get was having the composer be really happy with what you did with their music.
It's incredible.
Especially like this technically difficult music that most other people are not
They're just
willing
avoiding
to tackle.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was really good to us in that way.
And what about this? You know, let's talk about the album and the particular circumstances.
So like that first time we played for him, he made a lot of comments.
Yeah.
And it was specific to his music, but those were things that we sort of carried into everything else that we were doing. And then we went back and played for him a second time. That was 2 weeks to the day before he passed away.
Wow.
We were in Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
And we were planning to go home, but we bought tickets to go to LA. Excuse me. Just thinking like maybe he'll be able to see us. So we were in Sacramento We finished our obligation there, and I called Gail, and she said, yeah, he wants to see you guys. Come to L.A.
So everyone knows this is Gail Zappa, Frank's wife.
Right. And so she said, call us when you get to L.A. So we're at the Sacramento airport. We're on the first flight out of town, going to L.A. Who's on the same flight as us? George Clinton.
Wow. How cool.
So we got to sit and chat with George Clinton a little bit before we got on the plane. I found out later that George Clinton has said some very positive things about Frank's music and actually used the riff from I Am the Slime as his opening for the Parliament P-Funk when they do the walk-on.
It's awesome.
They play a Zappa.
I mean, how cool
Zappa
is that?
tune.
And it's wicked funky, by the way.
Funky, so
Frank style funky.
So that was sort of an interesting little meeting we had on the way. I think it was sort of ordained, that George played a Frank tune, and he said, yeah, I heard Frank's sick, and, it's good you guys are going to see him. But it was like the 6 a.m. flight, right?
Wow.
And George he was all decked out. It's like he just came from the show. Had a boom box.
That is awesome.
Classic. So we went to L.A. and we called Gail. She says, yep, come over. He's awake. We go over. We set up around the bed. And he was, awake. He knew we were there. And then Gail and Dweezil, Amit, Diva was there. Moon Unit was not there. And they all sat around the bed and we played a set, like the new set of tunes that Frank had sort of assigned us.
Yeah.
And then we had released the CD with our first CD with his music on it, probably just a couple months before. And so he's pretty drugged up, right?
Yeah.
Painkillers. And he says, we played and there's a little pause and he says, there's a mistake on the CD.
You're kidding.
And I'm like, what? And he said, there's a mistake in Dupree's Paradise. Check it out. We went back and Dan was like, you know what? He's right. When we're doing the edit, one little measure crept in and that you can it's the voicing of the chord is different. I mean, nothing got past him, right?
No, all ear.
So we played and we left and that was it. And he passed away 2 weeks later. So after that, when we were on tour, we used to frequently, I would call Gail if we were in LA and, she would say, come over. And
she was welcoming to you guys too.
Yep. And this one time, we had gone over once in 95. And towards the end of Frank's life, they had this Friday soiree, which is when the chieftains and the Tuvinian singers, and they would knock off work a little early, and often musicians would come over and do a little concert in the studio for Frank and, friends. So we went in 95, we did one, and we met Warren Cucurullo, who was playing with Duran Duran at the time. And then we went and sat in with Duran Duran at the House of Blues the next day.
Me. All right.
This 8 o'clock in the morning at the House of Blues, packed, right? Who else was there? There were a bunch of people there. So that was in 95. And then
so the connection there is Warren Cucurullo was a guitarist who played with Frank. His name checked on Joe's Garage, the album, so you might have heard that. He went on to be the guitarist with Terry Bozzio in Missing Persons, and then ended up in Duran Duran, which seems like a non sequitur, but in a way makes cool sense. But that's how that happened, right? That's the connection there with Frank, which is wild.
Yeah, and he was still, he was doing like a solo thing too, like parallel to
Duran all
Duran,
that,
right?
To the money gig.
Really great guitar player.
Yes.
And he was also really nice to us, gave us that opportunity.
That's so cool.
Why don't you guys just come down and play, And And then for this one that the CD is on, we went back in 96, same kind of thing, called Gail. She's like, oh yeah, come on over. Well, I'll invite some people over. So we went over there. The kids were there.
Was Dweezil into it? Like,
yeah, and then we met. Like one of these times we did some recording for Dweezil for something he was working on. I don't know if it ever sort of anything came of it, but so we get there and we're gonna, we're all business. We're gonna just get our recital together.
Yeah.
And so we get set up, and Gail had some food brought in, and Matt Greening walks in.
Nuts.
Because he was a big Frank guy.
I know that.
Ian Copeland walks in. Billy Connolly, the Scottish comic.
What an interesting mix.
It's such interesting people. So we gave this little concert, and Marcus and Coy, who was Frank's road sound man, was there. Just happened to be there. And so he set up this one microphone for our recital.
Chicken. Yeah, I get it.
And from Markson's Chicken, exactly. And we played Markson's Chicken on the concert. So he did the recording. It's one microphone, and it's exactly as you would have heard it in Frank's studio. We did no tweaking of the sound. We just mastered it. So, I mean, it's like an acoustically very pure impression of, what it would sound like if you were there in the studio. So when he had this cool thing in the studio where when you walked in, it was a large area, but then there was like this narrow corridor to the back of the studio, and then there was another room back there, and he had the Bosendorfer piano stored back there. But there was a microphone hanging from the ceiling, and that was how he would get natural reverb.
The natural ambience and reverb?
They'd just turn that microphone on in the back, and you'd get like a little
above. So were you getting like resonance through the piano too?
No, then you're just getting the resonance of the room, whatever travels back there.
Brilliant.
So genius, right? And simple. So this concert was like us sort of presenting the assignment that Frank gave us.
Amazing.
At his studio. So
I'm so glad this is, going to be available to everyone.
Yeah. I mean, it's been sitting in a box for 30 years because of all of the...
You guys are all busy.
Well, we're busy, and,
Was it the estate and all that?
Well, the estate things were a little complicated with that, but I think it's okay now. I mean, we haven't gotten a phone call yet, so we'll see. But, it's that point that we were talking about earlier, like when you're in it, you're not thinking about how great this is. You're not reflecting. You're just trying to play in tune and on time and like do your job.
What about now? Like, I'm curious what that, like you said at the time maybe, but enough time has gone by now. Like what this experience in particular, but just in general, like Frank, what a life in music. It's sad that, some of this involved the end of his life. And, some of the interviews that I've seen and read from that period, he sounded understandably kind of bitter and really pretty down. But what do you, that aside, what did this life in music and this experience with Frank, what did it show you? What did it teach you? What does it mean?
Oh, well, he was probably the greatest teacher that we had as a group. I mean, we only met him twice.
Yeah.
I talked to him on the phone once. But we all did as a group and individually such a deep dive into his music, his life, his way of doing things, everything he wrote. At one point, I was just trying to get my hands on every interview that he ever did.
Because they're all fascinating.
Fascinating. And, you know, some of them come in the least likely contexts. Like, you ever see this one? He's interviewed by a Pennsylvania state trooper at the guy's house.
No.
It's online.
It's on YouTube. I'll
It's
find
a
it.
famous interview of his. He was on tour. There's this Pennsylvania state trooper who's a big fan. He basically called up Frank and was like, "Can I interview you?" And Frank's like, "Sure." He goes to the guy's house. And the trooper's in his uniform doing the interview.
So bizarre.
It's fantastic, you know? But, you know, and I had some good teachers, but I think Frank was the one that, you know, taught us all about the importance of the work.
Yeah.
And the work is what's important.
Yeah.
It's not important if you get your picture in a magazine, or if you get on television. Those are necessary evils that are sort of connected.
Come with it.
With the business,
deal.
right? We don't do that stuff because we want to. We do it because we have to. But it's about the work.
I thought you wanted to be here.
Yeah. Well, no, this I want to be here.
Yeah.
This is different, you know?
But yeah, the work.
But it's about the work. And I think, you know, as I'm getting older, I'm even more hanging on to that. That's where I sort of plant my flag on the work. Because, yeah, you could be famous now, but in 2 weeks, you might not be.
Mm-hmm.
But at least if you focus on the work, you'll always have that.
Yeah.
So this thing still, you know, this was sitting in a box. I was like, oh, I remember this being pretty good. I pulled it out of the box. I was like, oh, yeah, I remember that 30 years ago. But it's because the work was good.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't do anything with it back then because we had our minds on other things, right? So I think it's from him, the lesson was, it's about the work. And that's what I try to give to my students, you know, support that aesthetic and that ideal that really this is all we have, you know.
Well, that's really where I was hoping you would go with it because, you know, Frank, you know, even though you hardly knew him, he was still a mentor and a teacher of yours. And you know, education and mentorship are so huge. And, you know, you've been a part of that for a lot of people at UB. You know, you helped out my son. But yeah, I mean, how does that apply, what you learned from Frank? How does it apply to what you're doing day in and day out at the university?
For me, it's pretty easy because I just think about what did Frank give me?
Yeah.
You know, in his, you know, and a lot of this is because, again, we only met twice. We only talked on the phone once. I knew him a lot better than he knew me.
Yeah.
But, you know, the kind of the attention to quality and detail at all times is part of the meritocracy of being a musician.
Yeah.
Right. It's based on how good you are.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that's what I just try to do with my students. Like, I don't, no, it's not good enough. We got to do that again.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm rehearsing something with my students with an ensemble, we could play a passage easily 5 or 7 times. And a lot of times, just through the repetition, it will get better without me even saying anything. But I think a lot of young musicians don't have a clear understanding of the importance of repetition.
Yeah.
That you need to rehearse. The band, you know, the Beatles, those Hamburg performances were so good.
They got their 10,000 hours in.
They got the 10,000 hours in, whether you're rehearsing or you're on stage. You know, the great touring bands, The Who.
Yeah.
The Who, when they were doing that that thing when they were young where they were doing like 5 20-minute sets.
It's crazy.
They would do a 20-minute set and they would drive an hour, and they were doing this thing when they were young, and they were doing that like 6-7 nights a week.
Yeah.
And they sounded amazing. They were a road band.
Totally.
Frank's bands, you know.
Boy, he worked them.
The King Crimson bands, you know, when they were out, like, you know. So I think that's the thing. If I can give that to my students, and that translates, as you know, as a player, that translates into other things.
It does.
So if you give that kind of attention to quality and detail in your music, if you end up being a lawyer, you're probably going to put the same attention and quality, detail
into that
umbrella on that and everything else you do.
Right, because it matters.
And Frank talked about that, like, you can live artistically no matter what you do.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a carpenter, if you're a plumber, if you're a teacher, if you're a scientist, or if you're a musician, you can do it in an artistic way. And I thought that was really cool, you know.
It is super cool.
And it applies, that applies to everybody, not just musicians.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
A lot of my students at UB are not seeking to earn a living in music.
Yeah. What is the percentage of that, or just roughly, you know, not exact?
I mean, we're an engineering school.
Yeah.
It's an R1. So in the concert band, which is between 45 and 60 students,
yeah,
I will likely have 5 aerospace engineering majors.
Yeah.
5 out of, so that's like 10%, right? More or less 8 to 10%.
Yeah.
And they're really good musicians.
Love it.
And they take it very seriously.
So cool.
So, you know, I have kids that are in the dental program. I have kids that are in the biomedical sciences, various kinds of engineering. I had a student one year that he was a bassoon player and engineer, and he made a bassoon out of PVC
That's an engineering mind right there.
I mean, he was like, yeah, I'm going to see if I can make this thing like playable.
And it was?
He played it. Right?
I love it.
So, yeah. So that's, the music will bleed into, you know, your attitude about your music. If you take it seriously, it's going to go.
Well, then that's very frank. It's just like what he told you. Whatever you do can be art.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm curious because we've talked about King Crimson a lot too. And I wondered if, similar to the situation with Frank, has Robert Fripp ever heard any of your arrangements of Crimson?
Well, no, I don't know if Robert did, because around this time when we did the Zappa house recording, we were doing King Crimson, 2 covers of King Crimson. And I had sent
what pieces?
Vroom
Yeah.
and One Time.
Yeah, both off the Thrack album.
Yes. And I had sent Bill Bruford a cassette with a letter and told him we were playing their tunes. I think I sent him a copy of the first CD, maybe the second CD also, because that would have been out. And then he wrote me a very nice letter back. It came in via fax.
How cool.
That they had been,
I love that, man.
They had been on the road with King Crimson. That's what the double trio.
Yeah.
That Thrack band.
Yes, which played at UB.
Yeah. That was just wonderful.
Second ever concert at the Center for the Arts, I believe.
Really?
I think so. It was brand new. That's in my top 10 concerts of all time.
That band was
insane.
Awesome. And then he said they had listened to the cassette in the tour bus. Wow. So then we met them. They were playing in Maryland at the end of that double trio tour, and we met them. We didn't meet Robert, but we met the other guys, and they were very complimentary.
Adrian Ballou and
yeah. Tony Levin actually had been a tuba player as well.
That's right.
When he was at Eastman.
Rochester guy, yeah.
And I think he's playing
nice.
tuba on a Peter Gabriel album or 2.
Yeah, I think it's the first album.
So he's playing, you know, so he he came over and was like, "Who's playing my parts on tuba?" You know, and he was kind of like, "That's cool," you know.
Yeah.
And then I sent Bill Bruford a link to this CD just a couple of weeks ago, and he wrote back to me the next day.
Wow.
So nice. That's the thing, you know. It's like if you could just get the composer to say, "Yeah, good job," that's enough.
That's really what it's about.
That's enough, you know. But King Crimson's another band that I'm just, you know.
To me, that's we're talking about Zappa, but that music is very different. Yet the ethic is similar.
Yep.
You know,
Exactly.
and the fearlessness.
And it's about the work.
It's about the work, big time, and that work completely endures and grows.
Oh.
You know,
I love that band. Every version of that band is fantastic.
fascinating and different.
Fantastic.
Yet there's a through line. you
Yep.
know? Mm.
Yep. So yeah, they were also important for me as a, you know, like as a young musician, I guess you need a model.
Yeah.
You always want to have somebody that you can sort of model yourself on and like aspire to
Totally.
that level of quality, of detail.
I think
of
these have been my
virtuosity.
biggest teachers I've never met. You know
Right.
what I mean? Some of them I've spoken
Yup.
to. Most of them I have not.
Miles.
But they taught, come on. I only saw Miles live once, you know. I was very young and he was at the end. You know, it's at the, I think it was called the Cool Jazz Festival.
Jazz Festival,
yeah,
right?
And at SPAC. Game changing,
Yep.
you know. Still.
And how many of us are there in the world that can say, yeah, Miles was an important teacher for me?
Totally.
Hundreds of thousands,
Yeah.
right, of musicians. And then probably other people, non-musicians,
Yeah.
that got a lot out of Miles' music and, you know, maybe, you know, sociological ways and, you know.
Significant.
So,
Big time.
Yeah. So I think it's a little different now because I think the young people don't listen to music in the same way that
Yeah,
we
you
did.
read my mind. I'm wondering, like, you know, observationally as an educator. I mean, when you're, you know, if you present people, are they aware of this stuff that we're talking about at all?
No.
I mean, I raised my son to be, but I don't know, you know, I'm insane. So, you know what I
Right.
mean? Not everyone is.
Well, and so that's, you know, a dad that plays hockey on the weekends with his friends is probably going to bring his son out to play hockey.
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so you and I have particular interests in music, and those things have given us a lot of joy and satisfaction and motivation throughout our lives.
Yeah.
And we've wanted to share that with our kids, right?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of kids, you know, maybe their parents don't have any music
Yeah.
in the house. But certainly the way of listening to music now is different than,
What it was for us.
yeah, we would go buy an album and call your friends, come on over, I'm going to put this on the turntable and let's check it out together.
Yeah. Repeatedly.
And I think that there was a sense of community that came around
Huge.
the music.
Took it for granted at the time.
Yeah.
Just assumed it would always be that way.
At the time, people would probably be like, you guys are just wasting time sitting around listening to music. You know,
Totally.
Now we think like, oh, that was like real community building
Yeah, so significant and important.
and sharing
Yeah.
people's impressions
Yeah.
about the music.
Yeah.
Now everybody's with earbuds and walking around, and you call their name and they don't hear you.
I know.
You know, but that's just where we are, I guess.
Yeah. But they're, you know, people are still like, you have music students. There's
Right.
got to be a reason for that.
Yep.
It's not like it's easy.
No. Well, now we have music education
Yeah.
at UB. And so it's very interesting talking to the kids and their parents. And I ask the kids, why do you want to be a music teacher? They always tell me, well, I've got this music teacher that is just so great. And I just love what she does. And I want to do that. So these kids are motivated by great teachers.
Amazing.
It's to your earlier point
Yeah.
about, you know, mentors.
Yeah.
So that's good. And
It
I
is
tell
good.
them being a music teacher is not a career, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
So get ready, because you're going to be filling up your station wagon with instruments on the weekends and driving kids home
It's
from
a whole
late
thing.
night practice, and
Yeah.
you're going to have to be at school at 7:30, and you might not leave till 5:30, but it's all great because you're doing music. You're teaching people music, right?
Gift.
That is a gift. I think I feel like I was given that gift by many teachers and by my parents. And
We didn't talk about that. I mean, growing up, was it a musical home?
yeah, both my parents were music teachers.
Amazing.
Yeah, so the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree.
In the city?
No, in a town called Middleborough, Massachusetts.
Oh, Mass. Yeah.
And they were both, my mom was from Quincy, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
My dad was from Braintree, Massachusetts. They met at Boston University. They were both in the master's music ed program, and they became music teachers. And Dad was like a K through 12, taught everything. Mom was a piano teacher, did some school teaching, and then after Dad retired, Mom ran the music ed program at the it was University of Massachusetts at Dartmouth. That was the name.
Yeah.
Which I think they've since closed that program down because music ed is expensive to run. But yeah, Dad took me to hear Maynard Ferguson a couple of times. That changed.
Is that how you got about the high notes? Like,
So
whoa.
I heard Maynard's band. It was 77 or 78.
Oh, that's when it was screaming good, too.
Bob Militello was in
Yeah,
that
Bobby.
band.
It all comes back to Buffalo, man.
A guy named, Stan Mark was one of the trumpet players. There was a guy playing fourth trumpet and percussion named Joe Mosello. I think he was from New Jersey. And then one of the sax players, alto players, was a guy named Mike Migliori. And these guys were like, some kids were like revere baseball players.
Yeah.
These guys were my heroes, like in
All cats.
middle school.
Yeah.
Like when I heard that band, I was like, I never thought like a horn band
Could be so rocking.
could be so rocking and get the audience so fired up. It was like a rock concert.
Yeah.
And then many years later, when I was freelancing in New York, I was subbing on Broadway. I subbed on 42nd Street, the show, which is a really fun show. Who's playing on the show? Joe Mazzello
Wow.
and Mike Migliori.
Did you get to know them?
I got to know Joe a little bit, and then he would call me to sub for him. And, I kind of embarrassed him a little bit. I was like, I heard you when I was
When it mattered.
When I was a kid.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, man, you're making me feel old, but thank you. And then, so he said, one day he says, oh, hey, Migliori, he's right over there. So I go over to Migliori. He's got the headphones on, listen to the Yankees game. It's like 5 minutes before showtime. So I go up to him. He takes off the headphones. He's like, what?
Yeah, you're interrupting the game.
And I said, oh, I heard you. And you had a big impact on me, and I'm thrilled to be here. And he goes, okay, puts the
Back to the
headphones
Yankees.
on. He was way over it,
That's awesome, though.
But those. And then we used to go hear the Boston Symphony a lot, so I heard all that classical music. So it was good. I was very lucky that my parents sort of ushered me towards that life.
Amazing. Well, man, we can go on. But I really appreciate you spending time with me and
Thank you for
talking
having
about,
me.
Of course, brother, always. Talking about Frank and the implications of Frank and how this particular series of events 30 odd years ago, really continues to resonate for you, even though this was sitting in a box for a lot of that time.
Yep.
It was preserved well in that box. And wow, still so relevant.
It is. And I think now with, everything that's going on, the craziness in the world, you go watch these old interviews with Frank.
Oh, they're so prescient.
Man, it's like right on. It's like you could have said that stuff last week.
I thought the Reagan era was bad, dude.
I know.
But Frank really spoke to me, my own story with him. I never met him, but boy, did that music speak to me at the time. It's funny how it can reach you when at the right time.
How old were you when you first got into Frank's music?
The first time I heard him, I was 11. A friend who was also, we were just starting on guitar together. He had an older sister. She had Zoodalors. And, at that time, my buddy was like, listen to this and whatever. He's like, this is a song about an inflatable, doll. I'm like, he thought that was hilarious.
Right.
You let me borrow the record, though. And it's when I started to hear, like, wait a minute, this isn't all funny. It appealed to me pretty quickly, although I was scared of it a little bit, at that age. 2 years later, I think I was about 13, heard Joe's Garage. Okay. Now this felt like, this feels like my music in a way. But again, it's this balance of like, I am fascinated by the way he plays guitar. I think he's hilarious, but listen to the compositional elements of it. And just freakishly, like one of the first albums I ever heard in my life was On the Corner.
Oh, yeah.
Because my parents were...
Really?
They had good taste, but they were not music people or musicians. But my mom was in the Columbia Record Club, right? So she's like, oh, there's a new Miles Davis. I would have been 3 at the time.
Wow.
It was the selection of the month. Well, I'll get that one. She thought she was getting 7 Steps to Heaven or something, right? She was more kind of blue, shall we say, era. And that album, she did not like it. But I was fascinated with the cover, and then I would make her play it. And like that music now sounds so normal to me.
It is.
It's
I have
so
it in
amazing.
the car. I have that CD in the car.
Game changing. So for some reason, like Frank reminded me of that.
Yeah.
And also in between, I had been obsessed with the Beatles, and then I was getting into progressive rock pretty heavily. And Frank, but then I just got the whole catalog, and it was Roxy and Elsewhere, and then like, all right, I need it all. And it was a friend to me. I didn't have a good high school experience. I went to a military high school.
Oh.
I wasn't a bad kid. I don't know why I went there, but that's where I ended up. And completely alienated, did not fit in. Then that man's music was a huge friend to me and a guide, So I don't know how I got off on that, but that's my relationship with it. And then it's just grown since, as I, in the 90s, played with a Zappa ensemble a bit. And I was more stunt guitar. I played the wah-wah solos on I Am the Slime and, Muffin Man and stuff like that. But it was great. And it just doesn't go away. Like, there's so much to go into there.
Yeah. At what age did you feel that it was something for you to model as a young guitar player?
Really quickly, I was fascinated with the way he could improvise. And I was, self-taught. I didn't get theory until I'd already been playing for a decade at least. But at the time, like what I could do quickly was like play weird and kind of out and kind of fast. And I loved the wah-wah pedal, so I got that pretty quickly. I'm not saying very few people can improvise on that level,
right.
Like, and with that much of an authoritative voice. But so that was appealing to me as I was learning, like in a big way. Now I actually kind of much more understand it, But yeah, that was huge to me.
Yeah. He inspired a lot of musicians. Those are
I love the time signature stuff, the editing.
Right.
With this sort of conceptual continuity idea, right? Where like a guitar solo from 1973 is flown into this 1984 recording. Again, Tio Macero's work with Miles, like I just always seemed like that to me. Like this is the same school. I love this. And it ties into some of the more experimental Beatles. So
sure, and
it made sense.
And it's not that far from what Stockhausen was doing. With
Totally that. And to me, it's like, oh, well, it's like Radiohead too, kind of, you know, so it just goes on and on. King Crimson, all of it's connected.
Yeah, that's cool. We're lucky to have that. Musicians that leave that kind of legacy for us.
Yeah, we really are.
Like you say, there's no expiration date on quality.
No.
You know?
That's why it sounds fresh. It's not beholden to the immediate era that it was made in, you know?
It's awesome.
Well,
good.
We're going to have to do this again. But anyway, I hope that people will check out the Zappa House concert, address where they can find the disc.
Oh, if you just search that, it'll come up.
It will come up.
I think it's one of a kind at this point.
Yeah, the Zappa House concert has both musical, historical value, and it's just just such amazing music, and it is a pretty good argument for why music matters. You know, which is why we're ostensibly here. So, John, thank you for all the work you do at UB. And thanks for this music and the different stuff you turned me on to over the years.
Thank you for having me. Congratulations on this and your other projects.
Oh, thank you, man.
It's great.
We'll see you very soon, I hope.
Today's episode of Why Music Matters is brought to you by 42 North Brewing Company. 42 North believes in listening locally and drinking locally. If you're out at a live music venue, ask for 42 North. And if you're a venue owner, you might want to think about adding 42 North to your lineup of taps. And maybe I'll see you out there at a gig. If so, maybe I'll buy you a 42 North Borderland or a Day Trekker. First one's on me.